It is with great pleasure that I now move to the main event of the evening, our tribute to the 2009 Transparent Courthouse Award recipient, New Hampshire Chief Justice John T. Broderick, Jr. I can't think of a more fitting way to begin my remarks than to read you the following quotation. "They call us judges, but we are really public servants. Our best ally is public trust and confidence. Without it, we will lose support. To the extent we build the walls higher and the moats wider, the more cynical the public will become. Sunlight and openness purify." The author of that quote is tonight's honoree. Justice Broderick is indeed one of the most eloquent jurists I have ever met. Dallas interviewed him for our 2007 annual report, and when asked to describe the importance of public trust in our judiciary, the words you just heard came tumbling out verbatim. But his eloquence is not about the ability to turn a phrase, but rather to give voice to truths that have emerged over years of public service. He possesses two unique gifts: a passion for public service and powerful communications skills. And as a result, he has been able to move the needle on legal system reform in extraordinary ways. Chief Justice Broderick has served on the New Hampshire Supreme Court for 14 years, the past 5 as its Chief Justice. He is a fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, past president of the New Hampshire Trial Lawyers Association and the State Bar Association. He was appointed by President Clinton to the board of directors of the Legal Services Corporation, the largest provider of legal aid to the poor in the United States, and he served in that position for 9 years. Before joining the bench, he practiced law for several years, was recognized among the best lawyers in America for many years during that period. He's a graduate of the University of Virginia Law School and the College of the Holy Cross. In order to understand part of the philosophy that this journey has molded in him, I again turn to his words. In our country, the greatest nation in the world, rights matter. Everyone's rights. No matter their station in life, no matter their income, no matter their circumstances, guaranteed rights are fundamental to the American identity, fundamental to its core values. That belief is part of the social compact. It's integral to our Constitution. It's even chiseled above the threshold of our nation's highest court, equal justice under law. He delivered those remarks this summer at a conference on access to justice. Under Justice Broderick's leadership in 2005, and with the full support of the 4 associate justices and the entire team of court administrators and trial court judges, the New Hampshire Supreme Court took steps to begin what the media have described as a movement to transform the courts. They established a citizens' commission on the state courts, a massive fact-finding effort to assess the legal system from the public's perspective. The commission's 9 research groups undertook a 360-degree analysis of the state legal system, including its family courts, fair sentencing practices, programs to reduce demand for legal services, and ways to improve the judiciary's collaboration with other branches of government. They also drilled down on the court's $60 million budget and conducted a survey of residents to gather their general views of the courts. This initiative was unprecedented on many levels. At 103 members strong and composed almost entirely of everyday folks, many without any knowledge of the legal system, the project could easily have bogged down in an organizational nightmare that produced nothing at the end of the year. But instead, in just over 1 year, the Commission delivered its report to the Supreme Court, including 30 sweeping recommendations that would ultimately underpin the judiciary's strategic plan. The report was a bold call to action, and in the years since the creation of this initiative, it has come to be viewed as the seminal case study in how to effectively leverage large-scale citizen engagement, not only to evaluate a court system, but to improve it. As the architect of this visionary project, I'm sure our honoree is pleased to hear us talk about this, but perhaps more pleased that that grueling schedule is over, at least for the moment. Building on the mandate of the strategic plan, the Chief Justice and his colleagues on the court established an Access to Justice Commission in 2007. Its ongoing mission is to identify the needs of citizens who can't afford legal services and to find the resources to close the affordability gap. The Commission is also deeply involved in examining the nexus between lack of access and existing court rules and procedures to make systemic change if needed. Chief Justice Broderick has also been at the leading edge of one of the most serious issues confronting our state court system today. I speak of the threat to justice triggered by budgetary bloodletting in state courts from coast to coast. At last count, at least 46 states have faced budget shortfalls expected to soar to $350 billion through FY 2011. Last December, many of you may recall the national headlines when Chief Justice Broderick was forced to announce that jury trials were being suspended for a full month to try to help close the state's $250 million budget gap. And with the full support of his judicial colleagues throughout the system, the justice asked the governor to allow 7 of the state's 59 judgeships to be left vacant until the fiscal year ended this summer. For the first time since the economic crisis began, the media not only reported on the tragedy of lost homes, lost jobs, lost savings, but also lost justice. Our honoree was among the very first to sound that alarm and to command national attention on this very serious issue. Throughout the past year, Chief Justice Broderick has been a tireless champion of the men and women not only of his courts, but of the courts around the nation. Whether testifying before legislators, often with his colleagues at his side, or seeking FaceTime with the governor, he has urged decision makers to urgently consider the impact of budget cuts on justice. Many of you in this room fight that battle and know that the job of trying to convey the ways in which the court systems are an integral part of our lives, not a disposable commodity, is a tough hill to climb. You will hear the frustration in these words of Chief Justice Broderick. Quote, he was testifying before the Finance Committee, the House Finance Committee. He said, at some point, in my respectful view, it's not the justice system, it's just a widget factory. It matters a great deal to people to have a judge who is attentive. They should be able to issue orders in a timely fashion, and the staff should not be demoralized behind the counters. Despite the crisis threatening his own courts, New Hampshire is on the verge of their first business court, which will come online shortly and offer innovative services to the business community. According to him, a court system that is irrelevant to the business community will have an even more difficult time obtaining funding than it does now. We are also very pleased that as a result of reform recommendations that we have released together with the American College of Trial Lawyers, Chief Justice Broderick has asked that a task force be established to evaluate the benefits of amending the civil justice rules to reduce cost and delay in the New Hampshire state courts. I'm equally gratified to note that his work to reform the state's judicial performance evaluation system, informed in part by our recommendations, has made that system significantly more transparent and accountable. I hope I've made it very clear to you that he views his position as a mandate to serve the citizenry of New Hampshire and of the nation, and that he is both practical and innovative. He gets what the problems are. He gets that we must find solutions, and he has the courage and the commitment to fight for those solutions. I want to end these remarks as I began them with a quote from him. We need to enhance what's on the ground, vision the possible, be open to new and different ideas and take ownership. We need to reach across state boundaries, learn and share with one another, and recognize that many people we will never know are counting on us. We have no time to waste, and we couldn't have a more important mission. Impatience is our best friend, honesty our best weapon, and success our obligation. Make some waves. We are so proud to have Chief Justice Broderick here tonight and to honor him with our 2009 Transparent Courthouse Award. Please help me in paying tribute to New Hampshire Chief Justice John T. Broderick, Jr.
Good evening. For planning purposes, my remarks run just a little under an hour. Actually, I was enjoying Becky's speech. I wonder why I was so attentive. I wished I believed it. It's great to be here, and I want to acknowledge, by the way, the Chief Justice of your state, Mary Malarkey, who kind of befriended me on my very first meeting of the chiefs. And it was a room I was not comfortable in initially, but she made me very comfortable, and her husband, Tom, the same. And they own property in New Hampshire, so they understand our tax system. And they complain about it occasionally, too. First of all, I want to say how honored I am to receive this award. It is hard to tell you, if you don't do this job every day, how important it is to know that there are people out here like Rebecca Corliss and Dallas Jameson and the staff who have been focused, in my view, on the issues that affect all of us in the justice system. And they have a lot of horsepower to do it. And so to be recognized by that organization, which I have great regard for, means a great deal to me. I have been a judge for almost 14 years, and I was a trial lawyer for 22 years before that. And I think it's wonderful, by the way, that the new president of the American College of Trial Lawyers is here, the first woman to have that job. Let me assure you, when she was winning cases, nobody noticed. but she's spectacular, and it's an honor to have you here tonight. But during my time as a lawyer and a judge, I have never experienced what most of us, many of us, are experiencing today. I ask you to ask yourself if it seems like this is the 21st century that you envisioned. It's not the 21st century I envisioned. I never thought in my lifetime state governments would be talking about closing the courts for a day or an hour. Think about that. If I told you that a system of state courts in any given nation was declining and bending to the point of breaking, would you need to know anything else? If the courts aren't working, if the courts are not accessible and affordable to the American people, they're not helpful. They're not helpful. Some months back, I was in Washington, D.C. for a funeral, memorial service, actually, of a dear friend of mine. And I was picked up at the National Airport, and the cab drivers are great people. If you listen to them, they have great stories. And so I engaged the cab driver, and he was from the Balkans, had come to the country 25 years earlier. He had 2 daughters, and he was extolling the virtues of the United States. And he said to me, "What do you do for a living?" And knowing he was from out of state, there was not much risk that he had appeared in front of me. I said, I'm a judge. I'm an appellate judge. And this man with the broken English driving a cab said to me, exclaimed to me, "You have the most important job in your entire government," he said. "Without people like you," he said, "little people like me wouldn't have a chance. You're the most important person in your state," he said. I don't think we're keeping that compact with that cab driver. Ought to trouble everybody in this room. Last year, the president of the California Bar Association made a statement with which I agree. In the United States today, he said, the majority of Americans cannot afford the justice system. Think about that. In my state, I'm sure it's true in Colorado, it's true all across the country. More and more people come into our courthouses without lawyers. And more of those people are middle class and small businesses. Civil jury trials are declining across the United States because the system, which is elegant in its function, is not affordable. And we can all pretend that it's working well and sometime it'll right itself. Or we can be painfully honest and say it's breaking. In my state, I was with a trial lawyer one night and I said to him, "How are we doing?" He said, "You really want to know, Judge?" I said, "I do." I said, "Tell me on a 10-point scale how we're doing." He said, "I'd give you a 3 and you're falling fast." I came back, I asked the Bar Association to send an email to every lawyer in New Hampshire. I gave them 4 questions, 1 to 10. The average rating of our courts, all counties, most of the people who answered, by the way, had practiced law 20 years or more. Average rating was 5.5 on a 10-point scale. When I went to school, that wasn't a passing grade. We are the American justice system. And every day that passes, it's declining. When I spoke to the joint session of our legislature this year, I said, sometime in the future, someone will say, "What happened to the state courts?" I said, "It's happening now. We can fix it now." The Institute, under the leadership of Judge Courthouse, is performing an enormously important function. And to all those in the room who support that effort, I thank you. I thank you for doing it. They are on the cusp of releasing proposed rules that, if followed, would reduce the cost of justice in state courts and federal courts. Lawyers have to change too. I love lawyers, but they have to change. Not everything in America can be done on an hourly rate. As one of my former law partners said, "Do you think Dr. DeBakey billed by the hour?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." Lawyers have to play, courts have to play too. We have to be open to new ways of doing business. It's the 21st century. It's the 21st century. And I'm sure for years around the table at the board meetings at General Motors, somebody said, "The Hummer is a great vehicle. Let's make more of them." Anyone in this room tonight think that General Motors would be in bankruptcy during your lifetime? I certainly didn't. That was unimaginable to me. It's unimaginable to me that the state courts in America could be unable to fulfill their constitutional obligations. And let me close by saying this. If it weren't for organizations like the Institute and people like those in this room tonight, there would be very few voices speaking up. We can fix it now, and we need to fix it. I've come a long way for this honor, but it was worth every mile I traveled. Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be associated with the Institute, and I have much to learn from the Institute, but I'm happy to be playing. Thank you very much.
You know, somebody told me once, I think maybe it was you, my husband is the one I'm looking at, that the work that I'm doing was a little bit like Sisyphus pushing a rock up a hill and just waiting for it to fall back down again. There are people at the top of the hill who are holding on to the rocks and who are building with them. And for that, I thank you.